I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is the Doctor's Guide Podcast, Raw and Unfiltered. And once again, it gives me great pleasure to be introducing to my favorite guests, Chad Cooper and Jeff Cohen, who I've had the privilege to start off this entire show on January 1st, 2024. And that means a lot to me because of their integrity, their heart, and their ability to influence others in the most positive way in all aspects of their life, in particular when it comes out to be about their health. And so, as you've been following me, I hope, on this podcast series, you'll be recognizing that this is not like most other podcasts. In fact, not like any other podcast out there, because we're not promoting a particular product. We're not hyper promoting particular person. But what we are doing is we're sharing the process by which you can best navigate the complexity of any health journey. And as you will notice in many of these shows, we're talking about the difficulty with all the information out there and the misinformation and the content versus the context that make it very hard for you to make the best decisions. And so I don't know you personally, and I don't know what particular problems you do have, but what I do know is that the process needs to be the same for everyone. And it's how do you discern? How do you decide, the validity, how do you verify, what are some of the things you want to do to make the best decision for yourself? And so how do we actually do that? Well, we do that through role playing. And you can then relate to the particular problem or not. You could be triggered by the particular problem and decide that you don't want to watch on. But it's interesting is that when we get triggered, it means that there's a pain within us that needs to be taken care of. So if you are triggered on this, you could tune out, but more than likely, this is the very one that you need to be listening to. And this particular show is going to also be somewhat unique because as most shows are more focused for the consumer, this one is really focused on the doctor. And my job is really to curate, educate, and guide both my colleagues out there with the programs that I have, but also the consumer as to how to best optimize their ability to get the best possible health. Now, the role play, Jeff Cohen, top healthcare law attorney in the United States, is going to present with a problem, and Chad Cooper, a brother, a friend, and my coach, is going to help guide him through that problem. And yes, thank you, Chad. We see you. And we're going to do that for about 6 to 10 minutes. As a doctor, you'll be able to relate to this kind of problem because it's a real problem, as I understand, and also part of the reason why we have that show. And then after that, we'll just unpack it, discuss some insights and some action steps. But this is relatable to both the consumer and the doctor as well. So, Jeff, introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll go with Chad, and then we will start with the role play.
Good. Yeah, I'm Jeff Cohen. I'm a healthcare business lawyer for the last 37 years.
Great. Chad.
I feel like it's the Brady Bunch. I should be looking down at Jan and Cindy and Peter, right? So I love the layout here. Makes me feel really
Do we have to explain to the younger crowd who the Brady Bunch is?
Oh,
No.
boy.
No, we don't. I just thank you for just dating me, but okay, that's fair game. So executive coach, where work with financial titans, professional athletes, everyday people like myself to help them understand that we are spiritual beings living in the material world. And it's not a choice of either or, it's a choice of yes and. And so what I do is help people be able to really deepen that spiritual relationship in the terms that allows them to connect with God, universe, whatever that they want to term that, because it's all the same, so that they can kick some butt while they're in the material participatory realm. So that's what I do.
Great.
I help create legendary lives. I should have just said that.
Yeah, that's it.
You did.
Short,
you just said it.
All right, Jeff. What's the problem?
Okay. So I'm an orthopedist. I went to great school. I worked my butt off, and I got the kind of debt that you get from doing that. I get into practice. I practiced for 20 years, had a fantastic surgical practice. I built an orthopedic business around it with a physical therapy department, imaging, diagnostic imaging, DEXA scan, a whole complement of stuff. with the whole staff that goes along with it. And in the last 10 years, my reimbursement has gone to shit. My overhead is crushing me. And I've got clients, patients that are running down the street saying they're going to avoid seeing me by getting PRP, stem cell, exosomes, and other regenerative medicine, which I don't think there's a tremendous amount of clinical efficacy for. And meanwhile, I'm really struggling in business. That's my problem.
So the question, when I see that, Jeff, the number one question that is really there. And as a coach, I can only go as deep as I have rapport with my clients. And the same holds true for you, I assume, right? How much rapport do you think you actually have with your patients?
I assume I have a lot because they come to me and a lot of them trust me to do what I've been trained to do, which is to fix their problem surgically, put them to sleep and fix it and get a great outcome for them. I assume I've got a lot of rapport with them.
Okay. Have you asked your patients what the problem is? Why are they choosing other alternatives?
No.
Are you the first alternative? Are you the first choice or the alternative these days? See, my guess is that you used to be the first choice. So what's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear is that I'm going to go out of business, and all the things that I trained so hard to do and that I've given my life to, I'm not going to be able to do it, or I'm going to have to go to work for someone.
What's been the biggest barrier? What's actually prevented you from keeping up with the trends, with where technology or solutions or PRP, why people, what makes you question, heavy question, why are they leaving? Why are they considering alternatives?
You know, honestly, I've just thought that they were making a bad decision. I've just thought they'll be back, but increasingly they're not coming back.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is actually what's really stopping you is that you've put yourself in the position of one perspective without actually putting yourself in the position of your patients or people in need and asking their perspective. Have their needs changed? Have their affordability changed? Has the field changed? And you're still playing with the same playbook from the 1970s or 1950s, really, right?
Right. No, I think you're onto something, because I've just been really pointing the finger at the insurance companies, and I've been a little pissed off with my patients too, and I'm the one that's paying the price for that.
Yeah. When we look at coaching compared to therapy, clinical therapy as an example, and what separates the two, because they're both immensely powerful and useful, but they have an appropriate place for a person. And if you're at a place where you're saying, my practice is the way it is because, and you're looking in the past, you're looking into the environment, to external, that's a great place for therapy. Because what you're trying to do is make peace with the past so that you can actually move into the future. But we can't change the past of why your practice has done what it's done, right? You're under certain guidelines that maybe others aren't by federal or healthcare laws. But when we're looking at it from our perspective, looking at it, what it does is it allows us to use that as an excuse. And the reality is, as difficult as it may be to swallow that pill, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. And so where coaching comes in to help practitioners or help anyone is when they can look at and say, whatever happened and the reasons for that is an explanation. It's no longer an excuse for me to use as a crutch or as a handicap for the decisions I'm making forward. Then what coaching comes in and says, you're taking responsibility. It may not be your fault, but it is now your responsibility. And let's face it, you know, you're a person of integrity. You invested, you educated yourself, you worked your butt off. And that's what we would call innocent ignorance. It's not your fault. But now that you're not innocent or ignorant to it, it is still your responsibility to pivot your practice and find out what the demand is and be the answer to that demand. we know, for example, you don't have to sell Tylenol. Why? Because when somebody's in pain, the shit sells itself. You do have to market vitamins. Why? Because I'm not in pain. I don't feel it. So why would I spend the extra money? And so your audience has shifted, and we have to take the responsibility to say, what do I need to do to be the answer that they're seeking? Because we've gone global, and you're competing not with your own zip code anymore, not even with your own county or your own state. You're competing across state lines, across country lines, across the internet. And people are savvy today. And what are they looking for, Jeff? They're looking for the Tylenol, man. And so as hard as it is, and I don't know exactly what you need to do to pivot, but asking the question, what could happen if you did be the answer to people's questions? What's possible from there?
Yeah. You know, it reminds me, and one of the answers, I mean, I've represented physicians for 37 years in medical practices, and for a lot of reasons, and I love these guys and women. They're just the best of the best. And I have helped sometimes them see that old saying that, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting expecting a different result. But you know, on this kind of encounter that I wish more clinicians would have with guys like you, Chad, and guys like you, Bart, you know, doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same result is also insanity. And I see it, and they suffer it. And like all of us human beings, the more that we point the finger at people and things outside ourselves for the way things are with us, the more we suffer and the deeper hole we dig. So I'm grateful for the interaction, because I would love to invite clinicians, especially, to consider a better outcome for themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Just
Well,
real quick with that,
yeah.
Bart, is just kind of wrap up. The thing that a coach can best do is that they can hold the space for somebody like you, Jeff, without judgment. There's a huge difference between speaking your truth and speaking your truth through love. Speaking your truth through love may still have sharp edges, but what it does when it's delivered through empathy and compassion is it really helps you say, look, comfort is the neighbor to mediocrity, and mediocrity is the neighbor to poverty. You see the trajectory where you're going. And that the best question that somebody who truly cares about you, because you truly care about your clients, is to ask, what's going to make change a must? If you don't change this, what's it really going to cost you?
Right.
Because you're comfortable. In comfort, you know where that's going to lead, right? Vacation is a great place to visit. Don't live there.
Right.
You can't make money there. So the best thing I can offer is let's get uncomfortable in a way that actually helps solve those difficulties and those challenges. And when we can do that, then we can actually move forward. Then we have somewhere that we can actually say, let's ask the questions to bring the answers so that we can make some decisions and we can successfully pivot.
Yeah. Well done.
You know why I love you guys so much is you just decide for yourself how the show is going to unravel. So that's super cool.
We're on a show.
The role play was terminated a few minutes ago, and so thank you for those insights. This is a very exciting interplay, because this is exactly the crucial issue that we need to be talking about in our country, and I want to give it a little more context, because a doctor might be watching this and say, well, Jeff's not a doctor. What does he know? Well, he knows more than every single doctor on their own, because he's related and working with so many different doctors, sees so many different perspectives. Just as Chad was sharing, they're going to be honest with him when my colleagues out there are not like to share their woes with anybody else. And so you depicted the situation absolutely magnificently, Jeff. And then I love the way that you put it into context again, Chad. But I have to read some of my notes here, because first of all, a big question right here is most doctors don't know how patients actually make decisions. And it's actually something that they never even thought of. They think they know, but they simply don't. And you guys actually, brought it up. The other part is that, the doctors are not staying in touch with the environment around them. They remain so myopic with their field because they've invested so much time and money and energy. It's outside of their comfort zone, and it doesn't feel good, doesn't feel safe. Besides the fact that once you step out of that comfort zone, guess what? You're going to get a lot of arrows from your colleagues out there and all sorts of other nasty things happening because you're doing something that perhaps they wish they were doing, but didn't have the courage to do it. And now you're the black sheep. And I can't tell you how many times I've been considered the black sheep when I thought I was doing some amazingly powerful things for my people. The other part is that, keeping this trajectory that you guys depicted very well is that now, and whether it's intentional or not, I mean, I know what it is, but you decide for yourself. But what the transition is that doctors are getting out of private practice, which is a problem. 70% of doctors are now within our employees, which means they're controlled. And so they're manipulated. And so you can prescribe a certain drug or not a certain drug based on the directives and regulations and all that kind of stuff. And that's just not good and healthy for us. And so that's the final problem. And then lastly, let's see. Yeah, the final thing is doctors don't really have that bandwidth to get out of that comfort zone. And so that's where someone in both fields, I mean, both you guys are the quintessential individuals that doctors need to go to understand how to best navigate their future, because if they don't, then they're going to end up in poverty from a healthcare law perspective and also as a coach. So I want you guys to continue your conversation with anything else that you want to add.
I just want to wrap it up real quick, Jeff, with yours is you explained the trajectory of what got you your initial success. And if you really looked at that, almost inevitably, the answer is it's never a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. What got you to the success of a practice for as long as you had it was your resourcefulness. And that's the way out of this as well, right? But we get to this point where we're like, I'm tired. I've done it. I graduated. Dude, you never stop graduating. Growth is inevitable.
Yeah, I've got to say this because it's obvious to us because we live like this, but the need to collaborate, the need to have meaningful conversations on a daily basis can't be overemphasized. The doctors, they'll run a pattern. They get to work, they do their rounds, they do what they do, and then they do what they do next, and then they do what they do next. What they don't do enough of, and this is true for every entrepreneur and every business person, and probably most people, is they don't communicate enough. They don't talk enough. And something like 70% of everything I need to know starts with me speaking with somebody that I really care about and who cares about me. And I do that every day. And yet, if they're running a solo route where they just head down, getting it done, trying to get it done, they're missing out on hearing what they need to hear, which is inside them. I mean, Bart said that. And so the need for an accountability partner to just speak with every day. And I'm not talking about therapy. I'm talking about just talk, because you hear the stupid shit in your head when you talk. And I do that every day, whether it's Autumn or you, Chad, or you, Bart. I've got people that I speak to and we have ongoing conversations. And that's a huge part of my success, not just professionally, but personally.
No, spot on, and that success is true and genuine, and it's a beautiful thing, by the way, for both of you. Chad, any final words on anything you want to share?
No, I really like the perspective of being able to contrast the questions from earlier to this, because I think it's really giving some powerful tools to allow people, regardless of where they're sitting in the healthcare as a consumer or as a practitioner, to get resourceful and to surround themselves with. I'll just leave it with this. General Patton said, if I'm in a room full of people and everybody's agreeing, somebody's not thinking.
Right. And once again, as you guys introduce yourselves, I just want to remind everyone that as physicians and perhaps anybody else in business, you want to have in your inner circle some influential individuals like a healthcare attorney that has the integrity and does things right, having a coach, having a financial planner, having an accountant. Because look, as doctors, we know a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff we don't know. And it's nothing wrong with you to not know these things. What's wrong with you is not to admit to yourself that you don't know them. And it's exactly as Jeff was saying, unless you're having those conversations and your best friends are holding you to a higher standard and holding you accountable, then things are just going to go downhill from there. And so anybody listening, I would highly encourage you to reach out to these gentlemen or anybody else in your inner circle that's going to support you, because here's another truth that's just very frightening. And that is that chronic diseases is ever increasing in this country. It's 1/5 of our GDP. 90% is dedicated to chronic health illnesses and mental health, pretty much, which are all predictable and preventable. And then by 2034, we're going to be short of 100,000 doctors. And not to be political or anything else, but because of some of the changes of some of the medical schools, as well as surgical programs, the quality, and you can decide why that is, the quality of those physicians is dropping down dramatically. And that is a scary thing as well. So Jeff, how do people find you?
Yep. Jay Cohen at Florida Healthcare Law Firm. That's JCOHEN at Florida Healthcare Law Firm.
Chad?
Chad at chadeCooper.com, or you can go to my website, chadecooper.com.
So I want to thank you both as part of the Doctor's Guide Podcast, Raw and Unfiltered. This actually really touches my heart. This has been the mission I've been on really for the last 40 years. Once I graduated from medical school and saw that there was a big gap, and recognizing about 20 years ago when I stepped out of the medical field into the personal development field. I never left the medical field, by the way, but learned about the personal development field and what it is to be human and what is it to become the best version of yourself, and recognizing the challenges, the disconnect, the frustration, and the pain that people are suffering these days when it's totally unnecessary. And that's been my mission for the last 20 years, to make wellness a must and accessible to all, which I'm shifting the languaging into democratizing both the delivery and access to all types of health solutions. Because here's the truth, who's leading the way in wellness today, they're not the doctors. Now, they're so focused on being the best they can be at the most critical time in your life when there's a crisis. But the other entrepreneurs and health gurus out there are finding new ways to optimize you. And just one simple thing that everyone can do that will absolutely change your life is make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. That's non-negotiable for me. And that's one of the critical things that most people aren't even aware of, that will make a drastic difference for you. Unless, of course, you're Chad, who says, no, I'm good with 5, but he won't admit how messed up he is. So anyhow, with all of that, you can give me a rebuke on that one, Chad, if you want, as we wrap it up. No, you're
No,
good.
9 out of 10 dentists agree with you. Yeah.
All right, guys. So again, it's a great privilege and honor, especially because who you are, what you represent, as to be part of the Doctor's Guide Podcast, Raw and Unfiltered. And I'm very much looking forward to getting more insights from you personally as how we can expand our ability as a healthcare community or a health and wellness community to be able to make it much easier and accessible and affordable for everyone. Thank you so much, and we will be back.